How are you? So, yeah, I was little busy last week, so I couldn't take the class. Today, I would like to discuss about the test paper that you have written, so that if you have any doubts in that, I can clarify, inshallah. Yeah, so firstly, I'll go with the paper of C++ test 1. And these were some of the questions that I felt you haven't done well. So when this question was number 4, which was asking the value of a string variable can be surrounded by single quotes. So this is not possible in the compiled languages. I mean, it's not possible in C++ or Java. So for having or storing a string variable, you have to store it in double quotes. But of course, it's possible in Python. Okay, so most of you have written this one as, oh, I'm sorry. This is false actually, right?
Yes, it should be in double quotes.
Has to be false. I was thinking that you were ticking true, which is actually false. So while making the question paper, I think I have mistakenly kept this here. Right as true. Okay, so you need to understand that we cannot surround any of the string by single quotes in C++. Okay, so this is false. This is right actually. The next question is question 9. You got it right, Mehraj. So this mistake was done by me. I have by just unknowingly I have kept this. Okay. Even I think Abdul Arif, you have attempted C++ and most of the questions you have did well. I have seen that. And question 9 was actually asking us to print the time in this format. Whenever the time is being entered in seconds, then that time has to be shown in this format. And this program is actually good practice in C++ or Python because the logic behind this program is very interesting. So let us try to understand the logic behind this program and try this program in both the languages, C++ and Python. And the question 10 was asking you to calculate the value of y from this equation. So this is a normal quadratic equation where you need to replace x with p plus 1 and the p has to be taken from the user. That has to be substituted. For y value, you need to use square root. Some of you have missed the square root. SQRT of this thing will give us the value of y. So this is clear, right? I'll go to the explanation of 9th question. So what we need to understand here is how many seconds do we have in a minute? It's 60 seconds, right? So why I'm asking you about seconds? Because the question is saying that ask a user to enter time in seconds. After the time is entered in seconds, we have to show that this seconds has how many hours, has how many minutes, has how many seconds. So for example, if I say the user has entered 60, then what will you answer me? This 60 time, it actually has 0 hours, 1 minute and 0 seconds. You got my point?
Yes.
Okay. What I was saying, we have to enter it in this format. So 1 minute is equal to 60 seconds. So I have given you the hint here that please use the division and the percentile operators. It's same in both the languages. Even the participants of Python, please try to understand this logic. This is very interesting. So we know the use of the division and the modulus. Okay, what's the use of division? When we try to divide something by a number, what will we get in return? What's the value that we'll get? The value there on the quotient, we'll get that, right? Quotient on the right hand side of this, of the division. And when we do the modulus, we get the leftover thing. I mean the remainder. Okay? So we'll get the remainder when we do the modulus. But when we do this division, I mean over, you can say by anything, you will get the actual quotient. So these two operators we can use to understand that problem. Okay, so let us see. Here, for example, okay, I'll just try to give you some good example. We know that every minute has 60 seconds. So, for example, time and over 60. When I am writing over 60, what does this mean? The time is being divided by 60 seconds. Okay. Before that, okay, I say 1 minute and multiplied by 60. Then what will it give me? It gives me 60 seconds, right? Are you able to understand this thing? If there is 1 minute and we'll multiply 60 to this 1 minute, what will it give me? The value will be in seconds. Okay, this is clear for us. If I want something in seconds, how can I do? If I want something in seconds, are you following me? I don't listen any of the voice.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I have some seconds. I want to know how many minutes are there in seconds. Now I say 60 seconds. Give me the answer of minutes. How will you give me? I say I have. Okay, how you give me the answer? You are saying 1. How did you give it to me? Okay, this is very simple. You have just, you know it, 60 seconds equal to 1 minute and you gave me. I'll write 3600. Tell me the number of minutes in this.
I'll put divided by 60.
Divided by?
60.
Excellent. 3600. When you are dividing by 60, what are you understanding here? This time, which has some number of seconds, I want to know that how many minutes are there in that. So that's the reason I have divided by that proportion, which is making this seconds into minutes. What proportion will make a seconds into minutes? 60 will make it. Got it? 60 will convert a minute into seconds when we divide it. Okay, clear?
Yes.
Okay, so one thing we got it, for getting minutes from seconds, what we need to do? We need to divide by 60. Okay, very good, excellent, my student understood this thing. So it will give me the resultant minutes. Okay, now we got it. Another thing I want to say here is, for example, 11 divided by 2. What will be the value? What will be the value? 11 over 2.
5.
5.
Very good. I want to know the remainder. What is the remaining value that is there in this?
1.
Okay. Someone told 5.5, but we need to work with only integers here. Okay. So 1 is the reminder. Okay. Mehraj, what can I do to get the reminder from this 11 over 11 divided by 2? How can I get the reminder? Tell it.
Modular of
Yes, 11 modulus of 2, right? By this, I will get the reminder 1. Now here, when I am trying to get the number of minutes from seconds, then I am dividing. Okay, but of course, the number of seconds will not be always divisor of 60, right? Every time it will not be a divisor of 60. It will have some extra numbers. The same way, when I am telling a divisor, what does this mean? 2 is not a divisor of 11, right? 2 is not completely dividing 11. That's why I'm saying that 2 is not a divisor of 11. But 10 is a divisor of 2, isn't it? 10 is, 2 is a divisor of 10. Means 2 is easily dividing 10. Okay, but for 11, it's not dividing. So every time we will not get like this perfect numbers. Sometimes the number will be like this, right? So this number is not actually divisible by 60. 60 will not perfectly divide 3601, but it will divide 3600. When we do like this, we will get the existing minutes in this, but the extra second that it has, the 1 second that it has, it's there. It's not counted in the resultant minutes. You got my point? Okay, I'll give another simple example. 61 is the time that you have entered. And I want to know the 61, the time entered will be in seconds. Now I want to know how many minutes are there. I write 61 over 60. It will give me the 1 minute as the answer. But 1 second is remaining in this, isn't it? Yes, it is remaining. For that thing, what I will do, 61 percentile 60. This will give me 1 second. What are you able to understand? When I am dividing over 60, then it will give me the resultant minutes. When I do modulo by 60, it will give me the leftover seconds. Okay, the leftover seconds. We got it. Now we'll try to go a little forward. For this thing, I will keep as time. Okay, not a problem, right? I am trying to keep it by a variable, not numbers. It's time, it's time. Okay, good?
Yes.
Okay. Now, we'll go a little forward. Now, I want to get from time, I want to get the hours. How can I get the hours from number of seconds? From this number of seconds, to get the minutes, I did divided by 60. If I want hours from these seconds, what do I have to do? Okay, if the question is looking a bit complicated, let me give you a very good example. 1 hour equal to 60 and 60 seconds, isn't it? 60 minutes and 60 seconds, which is equal to 3600 seconds overall, right? Is it making sense? Okay, so if I say how many hours does 3600 seconds have? How will you do that? That seconds divided by, you will go in the reverse process. Here you have done multiplication and here you will do the division, right? 3600 seconds. If we divide it by this number of, this is the proportion that you need to divide. Finally, you will get 1 hour. If I write something more like this, like 7200, how many seconds? 7200 seconds will have how many hours? How many hours?
2 hours.
2 hours. Okay, very good. It will have 2 hours. So from this time, now I want to get the hours. What do I have to do? Divided by 60 over 60, which will give me the hours. Got it? Okay?
Yes.
Okay. So forget about this thing. Forget about this thing. I'll just make it black. Okay. Here we are trying to divide the time by 60 over 60, which is giving us hours. But some of the seconds may be missing. I mean, when we are dividing, only the exact divisor that will get it. The quotient will get it. But the remainder is something. The leftover seconds will be there. We saw the example of 61, right? When we divide 61, it will show us 1 minute, but 1 second will be remaining. The same way, when we divide by 60 multiplied by 60, it will give us hours, but the remaining seconds will be there. That remaining seconds, I have to take it. I mean, I have to store it somewhere. This remaining seconds has to be stored, and from this remaining seconds I have to calculate the minutes. Okay, you got it? So for example, if I write remaining time equals time modulus of 60 over 60, which will give me the leftover seconds. From that leftover seconds, I need to check how many minutes are there. Remaining over 60, which will give me the minutes. After that, from that remaining, I have to also see how many remaining seconds are there, which will give me the final seconds that will be there. So when I enter time, the time will be checked for number of hours, and the remaining seconds from that time, then we'll check for number of minutes, then the remaining seconds from that. Okay, if you are not getting this, just after the class, try to look at this logic and try to understand, write it on a paper. It's very easy and very interesting. You will absolutely understand it, inshallah. Now, a quick question for you. If I want days to, how many days are there in that number of seconds? If I say 1 day, how many seconds will be there in a 1 day? Tell me, please. 24 hours plus 24 hours, right? 60 minutes plus, not plus, multiplied over 60 seconds. These many seconds will be there in a day. These many seconds. If you multiply this thing, you will get the number of seconds in a day. So from that time, I want number of days too. So what can I do? The two things has to be here. Tell me what the two things I have to write. What are the two statements that I have to write? Tell me. Time equals, time over 24 multiplied by 60 multiplied by 60. This will give me days. From that, we have to calculate remaining. Or else, instead of remaining, I can use the same variable time. How? Let me write in some other pane. Okay, I have written a equals 1. Second time I am writing a equals 2. What will be the next value of a? I mean, what will be the value of a? What will be the value of a now? What will be printed?
2.
2 will be printed. It means the latest one will be printed. Okay? Or else, now I am writing like this. A equals to 10. Then a equals to a percentile 2. What will be printed now? What is the value of a percentile 2?
1.
Think about it. This is percentile. This is not division.
0.
0. And the value of a will be 0. So this kind of statements are acceptable. Here, the value of a is being updated after some computation which is done on a itself. We are doing the computation on a itself, and then we are updating the value of a here. So these kind of statements are acceptable. Okay. The same way, now I am trying to update the same time. Okay. Time divided by 24 and these many things which will give me the number of days. Now I am trying to update the time like this. Time would be updated like this. Time percentile of this thing. From this thing, we will get the remainder seconds. Okay, so from this time, we'll get the remaining seconds. From this remaining seconds that is stored here, we have to calculate the hours. After we have calculated the hours, we have to store that remaining seconds again. Okay, so you are understanding, these are just like 6 lines of code, but it's very interesting. Okay. Time, I am updating it here. Time, and this time will be updated here. Time equals time percentile 60. So this program, I have written it because I have given it in the C++. I will show you, try to understand it. Okay. As soon as the person has entered the seconds, that will be read as time variable. Once the time variable has been read, what we are doing? From this time, we are storing the number of hours in the variable d. How? Time divided by 24 over 360. After that, we are updating this time variable to get the remaining leftover seconds after calculating the day. Okay. After day, what we have to do? The hours. Hours will follow the same process. Okay, and the minutes will follow the same process. The final time that is remaining will be seconds, and that we will print. Okay, you understood it, right? We'll move forward.
Yes.
Yeah, and in the test 1 of Python, most of you were doing mistake in the question 3 that I have written here. If we want to know type of any data type or any variable, we can write in this way, type of X. Okay, and the next question, 9th question, was there like this, where I was asking you to find out the midpoint value of two coordinates, coordinate A and coordinate B. How we'll calculate the midpoint? X1 plus X2 over 2, Y1 plus Y2 over 2. After this, you have to calculate the distance between the 2 points. How will you calculate the distance? Using this one. So you are subtracting and squaring and then square root. So most of you have done mistake here again. That's the reason I am clarifying. So any one of you require explanation for this program? I think no. Right?
Yes.
Okay. So for this program, I would like to explain a little bit, because you know this is again interesting. You have already done in your math, but it's very interesting again. So you may remember this sine rule where we have A, B, C as the angles, and the angle opposite side will be considered as a small c. For example, if it's a C as the angle, then the opposite side will be called as small c. The same way A and B. And the sine rule in a triangle gives this way: A over sine A, B over sine B, C over sine C, which are equal to each other. So what is the program asking you to read two angles from the user? When I told that the user will be giving two angles, then you need to understand that I can calculate the third angle. How? Because the sum of three angles will be 180 degrees. Yes. Okay, done. After this thing, the question goes on. And also, the user is allowed to give a third side which is opposite of this angle, C. So the user will not give A and B, but the user will give C. Okay. So the whole line values will be given by the user. After this thing, how will you calculate A and B? This is the question. For C, it's okay. We can calculate 180 minus A plus B in the bracket. Okay. But for A and B, how can we calculate? You can take any two of the equalities here. A over sine A, B over sine B. And then send this sine B here, send this sine A here, and try to simplify it. What will you get? For calculating A, you will get B multiplied by sine A over sine B. Okay? You got it, right?
Yes.
So in this way, we need to calculate A, B, and C. See here. Firstly, we are asking the user to enter the side C and angles. Once we receive the angles, we are calculating the angle. For angles, I wrote capital C, and for side, I have written small c. For A, we will get C multiplied by sine A over sine B. But here we need to understand that the values given by the user will be in radians. That has to be converted into degrees. How can we convert radians into degrees? It is like 3.14 over 180. If you are directly giving in degrees, then it's not required. Okay. So after this, we will give the output in this way. Okay. We'll move forward and try to understand more on loops. In our last class, we have learned while and do while loop in C++ and while loop in Python. Today, we'll try to learn for loop. Okay, inshallah. We took much time for explanation of the paper, but I think it was required. Again, it went, okay. Yeah. So, for loop is also a pre-test loop like while. Pre-test loop, I mean it will test as soon as the console enters the loop. So, this is a counter-controlled loop. Can anyone tell me what I mean by counter and controlled loop? I have told it in the last class. Maybe it has been like more than 10 to 15 days, but you can answer, I guess. What is a counter-controlled loop? I have told you about the major two types of loops, right? Okay, don't tell me about the two types of loops, but at least tell me what is a counter-controlled loop.
The loop will continue based on the some counter, based on some initialization, some value.
Exactly, you are right. So the loop will have some value which will be controlling it with a counter. I can say I or any counter that will be running. So the syntax of a for loop is in this way, where we'll have the keyword for and the open and close bracket. The first thing will be initialization, which is required, and then there will be a condition, or you can say test, and the third would be the update or the increment or decrement operation that will be there at the third position. After this, you can have one or more statements. If you are having more than one statement, you have to keep the curly braces for sure. If you have only one statement, then it's not required. Even if you don't keep the curly braces, it runs properly. Okay, so this is syntax. The initialization, again, it's the same. How a for loop goes. Okay, how a for loop goes. Firstly, it will follow the initialization that is there here, the variable initialization. The second would be the condition test. Condition or test, it's same. It will check if the condition is satisfied, then it goes to the statements. 1, 2, 3. It goes to the statement and then come back to the variable update. It will update the code and runs in this way. Once the condition is false, it exits the loop. Got it? So this is the more clear explanation. If we are running a counter like count equals to 1, initializing it from 1 and then running it until less than 5, less than or equal to 5, and incrementing it by 1. So the first step would be initialization, then check if it's less than 5, then print this hello, step 3 and go. So this is the flow of a for loop. Step 1, step 2, and step 3 and step 4. The loop runs until the condition is false. After increment, the step 5 will be this one. Okay, step 1, 2, 3, 4, and check, and then go inside. Got it? So this is one of the simple example of a for loop, which is trying to add numbers from 1 to 10. So firstly, we have initialized some variable and have given value 0, and num is another variable. The initialization is done here. The work of num is counting. It's incrementing, running and controlling this loop. After that, we are running the loop until 10, incrementing. The sum plus equals num. What does this mean? Sum equals sum plus num. We have already done these kind of examples, so you might understand this statement here, right? Sum equals sum plus num. So just tell me here, is the cout statement inside the for loop or outside the for loop? The cout statement.
Outside the for loop.
Yes, it is outside the for loop because we have only one statement. We are running it. It will run for 10 times. This sum will run for 10 times. It will add up. After the loop is exit, the cout will come into action. Okay. So we are printing the variable sum. So these are some of the important guidelines that you need to know about the for loop and how you can use for loop in C++. So for example, if the test or the condition is false at the beginning of the for loop, I mean to say, here the condition is false as soon as the for loop has started, what will happen? It will not enter inside. Just it will not be executed. Nothing. It will not go inside at all. And yeah. So the other things you can see it with, if you want to have more than one variable or one statement in a for loop, you can have it. For example, here sum equals to 0 and num equals to 1. You can initialize it together. For example, see here, this sum equals to 0 I have kept here. If you want to keep it here beside this, you can keep it by placing a comma in between those two variables. Okay. The other things you can read it by your own. One more thing that we can modify the for loop in this way. If you don't have the initialization here, it works. The initialization can be above the for loop or anywhere in the program. You can keep it like this. Okay. Sometimes you can also remove the condition and keep something like this, num equals to 1. So these are some of the techniques that you can do it. See here, I have removed the condition and just that will be running. But just tell me, if I remove the condition, until what number will it run? It's just calculating, summing up the numbers from 1 until the number goes on.
Infinity.
Yes, it's an infinite loop. So if you want to break this for loop anywhere inside the loop, you can do it by using some break statements or something like this. Okay, inshallah. So let us do a quick example problem of this and see how it's executing. Yeah, this is the example problem where we are trying to write for loop, and I have given the variable int I equals to 1 here itself. Instead of giving like this int I and then initializing it here, I have initialized and declared the variable there itself. Then less than 10, then I am trying to do percentile over 2 equals to 1. Can anyone tell me what this program is doing? What will this line check? What will this program print? The I is printing, right? The values that are printed here, what kind of values they are, what kind of numbers they are. You need to understand it by
Odd.
code. Sorry, what is that?
Odd numbers.
That is odd numbers, because I percentile 2 equals to 1, which will give us the odd numbers. Yeah. One good thing that you have to know is deciding which loop you can use for what kind of problem. So you will get to know it as per your programming, and when you are very accustomed with writing codes, then you will understand it by yourself. But these are some lines of guidelines that you can follow. Okay, inshallah. And one more thing we'll have in for is nested loop. Like nested if, we also have nested for loops. You can also write nested while loops, nested do while loops, everything you can write. But the more easier programming would be when you use nested for loop, because these are very good loops, when especially when you are using nested. So how the nested loop runs? For loop will have another for loop inside of it. So in this for loop, here this for loop will be running first, and then the second time this for loop will run. How? I will tell you. Okay. So this for loop will start here and it will run until 7. Okay. Plus 1, plus 1, plus 1. It will run until 7 times. And then the console goes here. And something will be printed if it was there. And this will be incremented. And this will run. If I say, okay, this has run 7 times and this has run 5 times. So total, how many times this star will be printed? Are you able to understand what I'm saying? This will run for
7 into
times.
5.
Yes, 7 into 5. This will run for 35 times. 1 times 7, 2 times 7, 3 times 7, 4 times 7, 5 times 7. Got it? When row equals to 1, this will run for 7 times. Then increment by 1. It will be 2. Row equals to 2. This will run for 7 times. Especially we use it for matrices, for something in this. This is the example. See here. 1 time this is running for 7 times. It's printing star for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Another time 7. Another time 7. Once it has printed for 7 times, the second thing is handle. Print in next line, the next line, and then it goes to increment and then print. You got it right? Nested loop example?
Yes.
Okay. So these are some guidelines for you. You can look into that. We can break or terminate any of the loop. If it's going to enter in infinite loop, you can use the break statement. We have already seen the break statement. Can somebody tell me where?
Switch case.
Excellent. Very good. MashaAllah. We have seen it in the switch case where we write the break after every case so that it stops execution there. And the continue statement, this is something opposite to the break. The break and continue is there in C++, Python, and in other programming languages too. So the break, for example, yeah, I'll give some good examples using these two keywords, inshallah, later. Just try to understand this now. I have to go to the Python for loop too, right? Inshallah, I'll get with some couple of examples so that you can practice on these two statements, okay? Inshallah. So we'll go there. Yeah. So for making you understand about for loop in Python, I want you to know about list, tuples, dictionaries, and these kind of things. But today I'll only introduce list to you because, you know, the other things you will get confused. First, let us be efficient with this thing and then we'll learn more. Okay. So list is something like an array in C++. List is just a collection of objects. We'll have multiple data items and that are separated by commas and arranged in a square bracket. So the list will have one number, the list will have a name. You have to give a name to the list and you need to assign the values to that named list. The values can be given any number of values you can give. So if we want to see one, for example, okay, another example of this list, we have, this is a list of strings. If you understand it, if you try to understand this, here we have single quotes because it's Python, it is acceptable and it will take single quote too. But in other cases, C++ and Java, it will not single quote. You have to write double quote. So one question for you, can I write a list which is consisting of integer and string together? For example, this Molly, Steven, Will, Alicia, and Andriana, comma 2. I want to write a number. Will it take it? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. For your answer, just try to explain me why it will take it. Yes, it will take it. I know. Okay. Yes, it will take it. But why it will take it?
Multiple data types.
Yes, it will accept multiple data types. And I need a more explanation. One more sentence if you can add to that. You know, Python has no differentiation. Whenever you are giving something, it's blindly taking as strings, right? Whenever you are trying to give something to Python as input, it will blindly take those things as strings. Later, it will figure it out if it's a number or a string. Okay? So when you are giving strings here, and then you will write some numbers, it will take all strings and that too as a string. Okay? We have seen one example where we were trying to print some string and then number. How was the print statement there? Some string and some number. How it was printed? The number was also printed as a string, if you remember. Okay, this connection is lost. Okay, no problem. I'll just try to give you an example here. We were trying to do like this. See here, print, and we gave something like this. Okay, it's Python, and then we gave plus 5. One time we have did like this, and then we have given 5. How it was printed? Python 5 and 5. It did not add to these two things. So because the first thing was a string, the other two items were also considered as strings. Okay. Yeah. So we'll move forward. The for loop is also similar in Python. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. So for loop is also similar in Python, but here will not have the braces and here will not have the curly braces too. The reason that I am taking you side by side Python and Java, Python and C++ is because you'll not get confused. If I tell Python in one class and C++ in another class, you'll get confused and you'll forget it. Here I am taking you side by side with differences so that it's very easy for you to understand. Okay, so here the syntax of for loop in Python is for the keyword, and here will be the value or the variable. Okay, value or the variable. Then in the sequence can be a list, or it can be a tuple, or it can be a dictionary or set. Currently we have seen the example of a list, so we can try with that, inshallah. After that, we'll have the body of for loop. So for each item that is there in the sequence, that is checked. From where it is checked? From this value. Okay, from this value the sequence will be running, and whatever is there in the body, that will be printed. Okay, got it?
Yes.
Is the class boring or are you overheated because it's too late? Okay, let us do one simple example. Here we'll take some numbers. Yeah, I think I have some already written thing here. Let me uncomment the thing that I want to print and comment the thing that I don't want. So I'll uncomment this. So yeah, here is the number. Let me comment this thing. Okay, sorry. Oh, for loop I need, right? Yeah. So here is my for loop, and what I want, I get indentation error. The number, what is the number here? Tell me what is the number here. Good, you have printed. Wazir is doing in parallel to us. What is the number here? Tell me. What is number? Just now I have told you.
List.
It is a list. And what is I here?
Element.
Okay, it's a variable actually. Okay, it's a variable in our programming terms, and yeah, and we'll get the list output. Whatever is there in the list, we got it. See, for I in number, print I. It means that I, when we are saying I, it's initializing the I and running until the end. So how good it is. It's understanding by itself. So I have to run from start to end. We have not initialized I, we have not given the endpoint of I, but it's running from start to end on this number. If we want to have some conditions here, let me just take this condition and try to keep it in this for loop. This is the condition. We know the syntax of if. And after this if, yeah. Now what we are printing?
Even
Even
numbers.
We are printing the even number. So this is very simple, right? It's very interesting in Python in running for loop. So we have seen this example. We'll move forward. Yes, we have just done this one too after this one. Okay. There is another thing which you have to know in Python is the range function. What is meant by range? Its range means the start and stop of something. And the purpose of this range function is same in Python. For start and stop of something, the range function will take some value inside it. Range is a keyword. It is a function. It's already defined function. The purpose is already defined. This function will take some value, and then whatever value that we have given, that value will be running from 0 until that value, not including that value. For example, if it is 10, it will run from 0 to 9, but it will not take 10. Okay, it's by default. And it increments by 1. That is also by default. The incremental thing, if you want to see this thing okay, let us change it. range 10. Okay. See here. It gave me 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. What I did? I am not using this number list, but I am using this range function. When I set 10, it will take from 1 to 9. If you are directly printing I, then it will give you 0 to 9. Okay? Yes, we understood, right? We can move forward.
Yes.
There is another good thing in range is that you can give two different variables. You can give two arguments or two parameters. You know what are meant by arguments or parameters? You know, right? Arguments or parameters, it means something which are passing, we are giving to the function are called arguments or parameters. These are arguments or parameters. Of course, these are variables, but the variables which are being passed to a function are called as arguments or parameters. I'll explain those things when we are discussing about functions, inshallah. For now, the range function can take two parameters also. How? For range, let us try to understand this line of code and see how it is printing it. Okay. For I in range of 2 to 8 and print I. What it's giving us? 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. Yani, it's starting from 2, start from 2 and end until the last but one. Okay? Okay, very good. There is one more thing. It can also take three parameters. Okay, I will try you to understand. I want you to understand how it's running. What is the purpose of third parameter? See the output and try to figure it out. What is the purpose of this third? Sorry, I have to remove this thing.
It has to pass 5 by 5. 1 and then 5 and then 10 and then 15, something like that.
Yeah. So what does this mean? It is the increment operation. So using this range function, we can do the increment as we wish, as we want. Whatever way we want, we can do the increment using the range. Yes. So in the C++, when we were doing the for loop, what we had, we can increment as per our wish. I can write like this, I equals I plus 5, right? As per my wish, I can write the increment. So how can we do that thing in Python? Using the range function, we can do it. If I start from 0, it will exactly show me how it's incrementing by 5. 0, 5, and 10, and 15. See, this is the start and this is the end. And increment is by 5. Why it did not give me after 25? Why it did not give me the last but one value, right? But the last but one value cannot be printed because the range is ending up to 29 only. Okay. Yeah. So this is the thing. I have more. If you want to see this program, you can understand it by yourself. What we are doing is we are trying to print the odd values from 1 to 9. Okay. And here we are incrementing by 2. Okay. So it can also take the negative things, the negative values. If you want your program to print the output in the reverse order, in the decreasing way, you can change the You can change it. Okay, what I'll do is write 30 here and write 0 here. I want negative. Let us see what it will give us. See, starting from 30 and in decrementing by 5. So I can also give the negative values. I can go in the reverse order. And one more thing, if you want to come in the reverse order, you have another keyword in Python which is called reversed. If I say reversed, if I write there reversed and give it in the correct order, let us see how it will print other things. Okay, 0 and 30 or 20 and increment by, for example, 2. Now this range will go reversed. Okay, oh no, here I need to keep it. So see here, it's going in the reverse order, right? In the reverse order, it will not take the last value because the last value will, of course, will be starting from 19. Got it? Yeah. So one more problem I have, then we'll end our class, inshallah. So, okay, no problem. Yeah. So, you know what is meant by factorial? You know, right? Factorial is, how I can explain factorial? You can understand it by an example. If I have 2, what is the value of 2 factorial? It's 1 multiplied by 2, which is 2. If I ask factorial of 3, what is the value of factorial 3? It's 1 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 3. Starting from the value n until 1, we have to multiply. See here, it's showing the example here. 5 factorial is 5 multiplied by 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, you might have seen it already in your school, how to calculate the factorial. Now let us try to write a program which will print the factorial of a number. Okay, factorial of a number. Firstly, we need to understand that what will be the factorial of 0, because in numbers we'll be also getting 0, right? Factorial of 0 will be always 1. Okay, remember, factorial of 0 is 1 and anything to the power of 0 is anything to the power of 0 is also 1. So here, but the factorial cannot be calculated to the negative numbers. You have to know this thing also. Firstly, the number cannot be negative. Secondly, if the number is 0, it has to give as the factorial 1. Okay, we'll take the number from the user and then we'll try to write the factorial. Okay, inshallah. Do you want me to write or explain this program? Because we are running short of time, I'll try to explain this program. Okay, what is here is we are asking the user to enter the number. Once the number has been entered, we'll check if the number is less than 0. Okay, if the number is less than 0, then the factorial does not exist. Done. Okay. The second step would be, if the number is equals 0. Remember, this is a logical operator, the comparison operator. When we are trying to compare, check, we have to write double equals 0, and then if it's equals to 0, the factorial of 0 would be 1. Okay, it's done. Then the third thing would be, what I said, the factorial, from where it will start? From n until 1. So if I am using the range function, where should I have to start? Range of, please tell me.
Number.
Range of, I have number n, okay? Range of 1 to
N.
Okay, range of, I'll remove this. Just range of 1 to n. Is it? The factorial of n would be
N plus 1.
very good. N plus 1. The reason is in this range, the n will not be taken, right? That's the reason we have to write n plus 1. And implicitly, it will increase by one variable, I mean one number. It will implicitly increase by one number. So we don't have to bother about the increment operation there. We'll write 1 to n number plus 1. After that, what we need to do? Multiply. Multiply from 1 until the loop runs to that number. 1 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 3 multiplied by until the number. So for multiplication, for summation operation, what we'll do if we want to have a summation operation in a loop, firstly we will initialize sum equals 0, right? Sum equals 0 to have that number initialized. After that, in that loop, what we'll do? Sum equals sum plus n or sum plus I, right? In this case, if I am trying to run the loop from I to n plus 1, where n, for example, I can give the number from user or I can give the number 5 here for our sake. Okay. So this is doing summation operation. But if you want to have the multiplication operation and multiplication to the same variable, how you have to do? If you keep the multiplication factorial, for example, f is my variable which is taking factorial. If I keep 0, then 0 multiplied to anything would be 0. 0 multiplied by infinite would be 0, right? That's the reason you have to take factorial as 1. Then to that factorial, what I will do? That factorial will be multiplied by every number which is being stored in I, which is running from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For the first time, 1 multiplied by 1, which will be equal to 1, right? The second time, 1 multiplied by 2, which will be 2. 1 multiplied by 2 the third time would be this 2 multiplied by 3. Okay, I'll just try to explain you how this, how this will, the multiplication will run. I'll try to explain in another slide, okay? This explanation is a bit important. F equals to 1. First time I have given for F equals to 1. When the for loop is running for I, it's becoming capital, so ignore it. Do not consider it. Okay, n plus 1. Here, what we are taking is f equals f multiplied by I. This is I, okay? This thing you need to understand it very carefully. For the first time, f is 1, right? And I is 1. 1 multiplied by 1, which is equals to 1. Second time, n will be incremented. Sorry, the I will be incremented and this will be 2. So, this I is 2 here. The value stored in f is 1 and that value will be taken. The updated f will be 1 multiplied by 2, which is equals to 2. Okay? The third time, I value will be 2. F equals I value. What is the f value? 2. What is the I value? 3, right? Okay, this will be 6. The next time, now tell me, what is the F value?
6 into 4.
Okay, very good. Like this. It will go on like this until the number 5 is reached. I mean the number that you are expecting to get the factorial, that number is reached. We will go it in this way. Okay? You got it, right? Okay, I'll just quickly
Yes.
the other examples. These are not very big examples. This problem I would like to give you as a homework, where you will be asked to write a Python program to print the divisors of a number entered by the user. You have to write a program which will ask the user to please enter a number. Once the number is entered, all the divisors of that number has to be printed on the console. Okay? How can you write this? You know what is meant by divisor? Here I have given you an example. See here. We have the number 12. What are the divisors of number 12? All the numbers which can divide the number 12 successfully, all those numbers will be considered as the divisors of 12. All the numbers which can divide the number 12 successfully would be considered as the divisors of number 12. So 1 divides 12, yes. 2 divides 12, yes. 3 divides 12, 4, 6, 12. Okay? All the numbers until that number. The same way, the divisors of 7 would be 1 and 7. Now tell me the divisors of 9. Who is telling me the divisors of 9? 1, 3, and 9. You're right. Tell me divisors of 6.
1, 2, 3, 6.
3, 6.
Okay, very good. So you understood what is meant by divisor. So how can I write a program for finding the divisors? I have to run the for loop from 1 until the number n plus 1, right? In Python. I have to run the loop from from range should start from 1 to n plus 1. Then that I has to be checked if it's divisible by n. Okay, I'll just give you a quick hint, and you can try it by yourself. The I has to run, and if your number is n, right, n has to be checked if it's divisible by that number which is being run. Okay, and if it's really equals to 0, you can write, if I am writing the whole program here. Okay, no problem. Sorry, yeah. And this will give you print. If it's really dividing, this number is being divided by this I, then print I. This will give you all the numbers which are divisible by this. I mean the divisors of the number n. You can try it again by yourself. Okay, inshallah. The other thing is looping through a string. If you want to loop, if you want to cover all the numbers in a string, you can do it. How? Just see this one, this example. I have already written here. I'll remove this thing and let us see this one. See here, we have this thing. For character is just a variable name, okay? So it's not saying something, it's just variable name. I can write something else here like X and X, and I'm trying to run it again. It will give me the same output. It's just a variable. So when I am trying to write some string and running a for loop, it's completely scanning each and every character and printing that character. Okay? So in this way also we can use the for loop. Here are more examples. We can see if we have something like this, let us see how it will run. Let me write the I'll write that list fruits. What is the list name? It's fruits, and I am giving apple and banana. Okay, this is my list, and this list I am trying to run and print it. Okay, for X in fruits and print X. Let us just do all the examples. So here, what do you understand? If you have so many tuples, I mean so many list of items which are strings, you can print it in this way as it is like a number. We did the same for numbers, right? How was our list in numbers? Here we had numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, so on. And then that was printed, same. And what else we can do is, if you want to have some condition, and only print if that condition is satisfied, then you can do it even if it is a string. So for in C++, the string comparisons and comparison of a sentence is a little complicated. You have to use get, char, and these kind of functions for comparison, but in Python you can do it with for loop itself. So here you can understand it by this line of code. This is our fruits list, it's the same, and the X will run throughout this loop, and when the X has checked if there is banana, it has to continue and print. Okay, this is one of the use of continue statement in Python. The same way, if you want to break it and if you don't want to print anything and come out of this for loop, here itself you can write like this. Okay, this was another example. And I have another question, which is asking a user to identify a number if it is a prime or not prime. How can we know if a number is prime or not prime? Tell me. How can we understand if a number is prime or not prime? Prime. How can I say if
number should be divided by 1 and then by itself.
Very good. 1 and itself. The number should be only divisible by 1 and itself. It means the number will have only 2 divisors, right? You can do it in any way. I mean, you can code this program in any way you want. Either you can check if it's divisible by n, or if it's divisible, I mean, you can count the number of divisors, or if you can check the all divisors. Okay, so it will have only 2 divisors. What will be the 2 divisors? 1 and itself. So how we can check? You have to run the range from, just I am showing it here, for loop, and the range Why it's coming big? Okay, the range has to run from 1 until, you can say until n. Okay, that's no problem. And in this range, we have to check the number of divisors. Let me write some count like this. Okay, count. This is our counter, for example. Counter, firstly I have given 0 as my counter. I will remove the above lines so that you will not confuse. This is my counter. I'll write it as a counter. Okay. For range 1 to n, what I have to check? If the number is being divided by I. If it's being divided by I mean if the remainder is 0, then I will increment my counter. Why I am doing this? Why I am doing this? Why I am doing this is to count the number of devices that I'll be getting. Okay, so after the whole for loop is run, these 2 lines of statements is done, from 1 to n, from this range, what should be the value of counter to say that the number n was prime? What should be the value of counter? What should be the value of counter? Tell me. To tell the number is a prime.
2.
The range is until n. If the range is until n, the counter should be only equals to 1 because the n value is not included here. If I include n value, then the counter has to have 2. Okay? If I take n, the counter has to have 1. If I take n plus 1, the counter has to have 2. Only in this case, print prime. Got it? Only in this case. After this for loop is end, you need to check the counter and then you will print as prime or not prime. Okay? Do you have any questions here?
No.
Okay, very good. Yeah. So here I have given in another way, but this would be very easier for you. I want all of you to practice the prime number and this one, the divisors problem. Okay, I have shown how you can code this one too. How to identify the number of divisors of a number and how to find out if a number entered is prime or not. So please try to do these 2 problems as your homework and I want you to send me, okay, before the next class. I'll also upload some of the assignments, inshallah. You can submit it by Sunday. Okay, Jazakumallahu khairan kaseera. Do you have any doubts or explanations that you need from me? Do you have?
No.
Okay. Just one last thing I want to say is programming will have many different ways. Some of the people will do it in some way and some other will do it in different way. A good programmer will only the person who can think in a good way. I mean to say that the logic and the understanding is very important in programming. I mean, you don't have to remember the program. That you don't have to understand and remember the steps. You just have to get the skill of logic. Oh, how can I solve this problem? And if you're not able to solve any problem, what you do is write an algorithm on a paper and pen. Try to write it there. Algorithm, I don't mean you write step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Like, no, I don't mean this. Just try to write the important code, the significant part of code that you have to write, the logic. Just that's the reason I am explaining you only the logics. These are the very important things you need to be a good programmer. If you have caught the logic, then you are done. This is the only thing. Logic. So for developing this logical thinking, you need to practice more and do complicated problems, not simple thing. Sometimes take a math problem, sometimes take a physics problem, sometimes take another problem and try to solve it using coding. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much for your time, for staying with me. Jazakumullahu khairan kasira. Inshallah, we'll meet again on Monday. Okay, I have changed the Python class timings. Could be Monday and Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. Okay, I will update it in the group description and I will remind you before the class. Inshallah. Jazakumullahu khairan kasira. Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.